The night was heavy, the air thick with the promise of something ancient, something forgotten yet powerful enough to stir even the deepest souls who dared to walk through the path of fate. It was one of those nights where the thunder cracked with the fury of ancestors who had not been heard for centuries, where the rain poured from the heavens like a cleansing flood, purging the earth of its sins. But it wasn't just the rain that made her heart race. It wasn't just the howl of the wind or the rapid beat of the storm. It was something deeper. The storm itself seemed to pulse with an energy that defied the natural laws of this world. It was as though the wind carried whispers that threatened to break the very fabric of time, telling stories that no human had ever been brave enough to listen to. Hefei was no ordinary woman. She was chosen. From the moment she first stepped into the rain, she knew. The way the raindrops danced on her skin, the way the thunder called her name, she understood that something ancient, something vast, was stirring deep beneath the earth. Something, or rather someone, was calling to her. Her heart pounded as she sprinted through the unlit streets, her colorful traditional attire clinging to her body as if the very threads were tied to her fate. The heavy rain made everything blurry, but not enough to obscure the monstrous form that loomed behind her. A shadow larger than the night itself, a creature with eyes that glowed like burning coals in the depths of the underworld. It was no ordinary snake. This creature was a beast of legend, one whispered about in hushed tones around campfires, one spoken of in ancient stories told only at the midnight hour when the spirits of ancestors came to life. And it was chasing her. Hefei had been warned, but she hadn't believed it. She thought the stories were just that, stories. But now, as she felt the creature's presence breathing down her neck, as the ground seemed to tremble beneath its slithering, she knew. The tales were not tales at all. They were warnings. And she wasn't just running from the snake. She was running from destiny itself. As she glanced back, she saw the glowing eyes of the snake widening, its scales shimmering under the dim light of the street lamps, its mouth open in an eerie, sinister grin. It was massive, bigger than any snake she had ever seen. The kind of snake that could swallow a village whole and leave no trace behind. Its body seemed to stretch endlessly behind it, a dark mass of scales and fury, a thing of nightmares come to life. But why her? Why was she the one chosen? And what was this force that seemed to call her in the midst of the storm? These were the questions that haunted her mind as her feet pounded against the wet ground. She had no answers, only fear. Raw, unfiltered fear that threatened to paralyze her. Her breath came in sharp, ragged gasps, and her thoughts scattered like raindrops caught in the wind. But then, amidst the chaos, the fear began to turn into something else, a realization that was both terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. She wasn't just running from the snake. She was running towards something that only she could understand. Her instincts told her she had to go deeper into the storm, deeper into the heart of the unknown. Only there could she find the answers that would determine her survival, the survival of her people, and perhaps even the survival of the world as she knew it. And so, with every ounce of strength left in her body, Hefei turned towards the darkest part of the street, the part that everyone had always avoided, the part where the trees grew thick and untamed, the part where the whispers of spirits were said to be the loudest. The street disappeared behind her, swallowed by the night and the rain. The only light now was from the glowing eyes of the snake and the flickering lamps in the distance. But there was something else, something more intense, more primal, that began to awaken in the air around her, a kind of ancient energy that seemed to crackle with the force of thunder itself. Hefei's steps faltered for a moment. Her body was aching, her lungs burning with the cold air and the dampness of the rain, but she could feel it now, the pull, the force, the call to something older than time itself. She wasn't just running in fear. No, she was running because she had to, because her very existence depended on it. The snake, relentless in its pursuit, slithered closer. Its massive body coiled around the street, and the sound of its hiss pierced through the air, as though the earth itself was being torn apart. Hefei's heart raced. She couldn't afford to stop. Not now, not ever. The dense forest ahead loomed like a dark shadow, its trees reaching out like twisted fingers, their bark slick and dark from the rain. But the path wasn't easy. The ground beneath her feet was treacherous, slippery, and she had to leap over roots that seemed to grab at her legs, eager to pull her down into the depths. Her mind raced, scrambling to make sense of everything that was happening. Why me? Why now? She could hear the distant whispers of her elders in her mind, stories passed down through the generations. The stories of the snake that was more than just a serpent. It was a guardian, a keeper of a forgotten world, a creature who had once been bound to the earth itself, guarding the ancient knowledge that had been lost to humanity. Efe remembered one story in particular, one that stood out above the rest. It was a tale told to her when she was a child, one her grandmother used to whisper when the moon was full. It spoke of a time long ago when the earth was young and the gods walked among men. The gods had created the snake, not as a beast of terror but as a protector. It was said that the snake was the keeper of all secrets, a creature who could see into the very soul of the earth and its people. But then, as the ages passed, the snake's power grew too great. It became too dangerous for even the gods to control, and so it was sealed away in the deepest corners of the world. Its eyes would glow every time it sought a new soul to call upon, a new soul that would awaken its power. Ife had always dismissed these stories, thinking them to be mere legends. But now, in the midst of this chaos, she realized the truth that she was the one the snake had chosen. Her pulse quickened, and she pushed herself harder, running through the rain-soaked path, desperate to reach whatever lay ahead, whatever had been waiting for her in the heart of this storm. She wasn't just fighting for her life anymore. She was fighting for something greater, something that had been buried for centuries, something that only she could unearth. But there was no turning back now. The snake was behind her, and it would never stop until it had her, until it had claimed what it had come for. The rain came down in sheets, and the trees seemed to close in around her like a dark, suffocating veil. But ahead, she saw a faint light flickering through the trees, a soft golden glow as though something or someone was waiting for her. Efe pushed forward, her breath shallow and ragged. Her heart pounded in her chest, the rhythm of it matching the thundering sound of the storm. The ground beneath her feet grew more treacherous with each step, but she had to keep going. She had to reach the light. The snake was still there, trailing her, its massive form slithering through the rain, its glowing eyes locked on her with an unyielding intensity. It was closer now, closer than ever before. Efe could feel its presence, its power, as though it was pulling her toward it. But she wouldn't stop. She couldn't. The light ahead grew brighter, more vivid. And then, as if by some force beyond her understanding, the storm seemed to clear just for a moment. The rain stopped, the wind settled, and the only sound that remained was the soft hum of the glowing light. And there, standing in front of her, was an ancient altar, an altar that she had only seen in stories, in dreams. The altar was made of stone, covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift and move as if they were alive. The carvings told a story, her story. Efe stepped forward, trembling. She felt the energy in the air, an energy that was both ancient and powerful. The snake was close now, just behind her, its jaws open wide, ready to strike. But Aoife didn't flinch. She couldn't, not now. She placed her hands on the altar, and the moment her skin made contact with the stone, a surge of energy coursed through her. She gasped, her body trembling with the power of it. The snake stopped. Its glowing eyes flickered for a moment, and then it began to retreat. But it wasn't just retreating. It was transforming, shedding its skin, revealing something much older, much more powerful. The truth was unraveling before her eyes. Aoife was not just the one chosen to face the snake. She was the one chosen to awaken it. The storm had ceased, and the world had gone eerily still. Aoife stood alone at the altar, her hands still pressed against the stone, her body pulsing with the newfound power within her. The giant snake had disappeared, leaving only the remnants of its former self, an ancient energy that now resonated through her veins. For a moment, Aoife stood frozen, the weight of what had just transpired sinking in. The altar beneath her hands glowed with a pulsating light, as if it were alive, its ancient power now awakened, and she, its chosen vessel. But her mind raced. The creature that had chased her, the stories that had always seemed like myths, the terrifying realization that she had awakened something that could very well destroy her. Everything was still too much to comprehend. She was still reeling from the events, her breath shallow, her body trembling from both fear and the overwhelming sense of destiny. She had done it. She had touched the earth's heartbeat. She had unlocked something long hidden, long forgotten. But in doing so, she knew she wasn't just a bystander in this ancient tale anymore. She was the central player, the one who would decide the fate of not only herself, but also the entire world around her. The voice of the earth, a low rumbling whisper that seemed to vibrate from the very ground beneath her, echoed once more. "You have awakened me, Aoife. You have brought forth the power of the ancients. You are the one who will lead us into the new dawn, the one who will reclaim what was lost." The words were cryptic, laden with meaning she could not yet fully understand. Her hand still lingered on the altar, and as the power within her surged once more, she felt the ground beneath her tremble. It was as though the very world was responding to her touch, as though the earth itself had been waiting for this moment. Then suddenly the air around her shifted. The snake was no longer behind her. It was in front of her now, its massive form writhing with an unnatural grace, its glowing eyes fixed on her with an intense gaze that seemed to pierce through her very soul. Aoife didn't move. Fear gripped her heart, but a different force began to awaken inside her. A sense of purpose, a deep knowing that this was not her fight alone. This was a battle between the ancient powers, the guardians of the earth, and the forces that had been sealed away for millennia. The snake was a guardian, not just a predator, and she, Aoife, had become the keeper of the balance. She had to confront the snake, not as an enemy, but as an ally, an ancient power that had been corrupted by the forces of time. The earth's energy coursed through her veins, and she felt an overwhelming sense of unity with the world around her. The trees, the rain-soaked earth, the sky that had cleared up in the aftermath of the storm. She wasn't alone anymore. The forces of the earth, of nature, had chosen her. She could feel the ancestral spirits in the air, the wisdom of generations past guiding her. The snake lunged. Aoife's heart skipped a beat, but she did not flinch. Instead, she raised her hands, and for the first time she understood. She understood the ancient language of the earth, a language of power and harmony, not destruction. The air crackled with the energy of the storm that had passed, now channeled through her. The snake stopped mid-attack. Its massive head hovered in front of her, and for a brief moment, Aoife saw not a creature of destruction, but a creature of ancient wisdom. The snake's glowing eyes flickered as though it recognized her transformation, her acceptance of her role. It wasn't a monster. It was a guardian, a keeper of lost knowledge, a force of nature waiting for its release. She spoke, her voice trembling at first, but gaining strength as the words flowed from her lips, a language that she hadn't known she knew. Words that were older than the earth itself, words that carried with them the weight of millennia. She was speaking to the snake, but also to the earth, to the wind, to the rain. "I am the bridge between the past and the future. I am the keeper of the balance. No more destruction. We must restore what has been lost." And in that moment, something extraordinary happened. The snake's glowing eyes softened, its massive body coiling back as if retreating from a battle it no longer wished to fight. The ground beneath Aoife's feet trembled one last time, then stilled, as though the earth was breathing a sigh of relief. The storm clouds that had once roiled above them began to dissipate, revealing a sky full of stars. It was as though the very heavens themselves were watching in awe, witnessing the birth of a new age. Aoife, standing tall, her eyes filled with both determination and awe, felt the earth hum with energy. She had not destroyed the snake. She had not fought it. Instead, she had reconciled with it. She had understood that the ancient powers were not her enemies. They were the guardians, the keepers of knowledge that had been lost, and now she was the keeper of that knowledge. The battle had not been against the snake, but against the forces that had corrupted both the snake and the world it protected. As the snake slowly retreated into the forest, Aoife knew this was not the end. The world would change now, and she would lead it. She had unlocked the earth's power, she had awakened the spirits, and she had reconciled with the forces of nature. But now a new challenge awaited her, one that required not just strength but wisdom. The ancient guardians had chosen her, and she had chosen to answer the call. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be those who would seek to misuse the powers she had unlocked. But Aoife was ready. She would lead her people. She would protect the earth, and she would restore balance to a world that had long forgotten its roots. The storm had passed. The snake was no longer a threat, and Aoife stood alone, not as a woman fleeing in fear, but as a leader, a protector, and a keeper of ancient power. What do you think of Aoife's journey? How do you think the balance between humanity and nature will be restored in this ancient world? Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this thrilling African folktale, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next chapter in this epic saga. where more secrets of the ancients will be uncovered. Your journey with Ifi is just beginning.